Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how you can use SCP command to copy your files or directories from your local machine to a remote server or from your remote server to your local machine. How to use SCP for transferring files, I'm going to show you. So let's say I have a remote server. On the right hand side I have a virtual machine. I'm going to treat it as a remote server. So this on the right hand side is my remote server, and on the left hand side this one is my local machine, let's say, and I want to transfer the file from my local machine to a remote server first of all, and then I will show you the vice versa. So first of all, let's see what are the options we have with the SCP command. By the way, SCP stands for secure copy, and if you know CP command, it's similar to that. So just write SCP on your client and then press enter, which is going to show you all the options which you can use with the SCP. So to use SCP, you need to give the username and the host IP and then your file name, for example. So let's say I have a file called hello.sh on my desktop folder. So I'm going to just cd to my desktop first of all, and then I will transfer this hello.sh to the server, to the home directory. So this is my home directory, and let me just do ls here, which will list out all the files and directories in my remote server or in the home folder, right? So let's copy this hello.sh to the remote server. So we will use scp command and the IP of this remote server. So to know the IP of the remote server, you just say if config and then press enter, and this is the IP address of the remote server, right? And then we also need the username. So username in my case is codebind. It can be different in your case, right? So first of all, your file name, so just give the file name. In my case it's hello.sh, and then the host name, which is codebind. In my case it can be different in your case, so this is the username, right? And then at the rate the IP address, and then the IP address, which is this one. So I'm going to just write 192.168.245.141 and then colon, and then wherever you want to transfer your file. So in whatever folder you want to transfer your files, you just need to give the path of that. So for example, I want to just transfer my files to the home directory, which is home/codebind. I will just write that here. So I'm going to just paste it here. So /home/codebind. Okay, and then press enter, and for the first time it will ask you, are you sure you want to continue connecting? You can just say yes for the first time and then press enter, and then it's going to need your remote server's password. So the password you use to log into this remote server, you need to give it here. So I'm going to give the same password here, and then this file is transferred, and you can see this file is now appearing here also, hello.sh. And then when I do ls here, I can see this file once again here. Earlier this file was not present here. Okay, so this is how you can transfer a file from your host PC to a remote server. Now let's say you have multiple files. So you have some directory, and then you want to transfer the content of that directory. So let me just go to my home directory. So I will just do cd, and let me just clear the terminal, and let's say I want to create a directory. So I will just create a directory called test here, or test123 here, and then I will just cd into that directory, cd test123, and create some files. So I will just use touch command to create these files. I'm not going to fill any content in these files, but just the file names. So for example, file1.txt, and then file2.txt, and then file 3.txt, any number of file you can create, and then I will do ls to list out all the files, right? So these are all the files, and I want to transfer these files with the directory to my remote server. How can I do it? So let me just go to my home folder once again and let me do ls. So let's say I want to just transfer this directory. Okay, so I will use the scp command and then -r for recursive copying, and once again the username. So let me just use the same command which I used previously. So scp and then -r flag to copy your files or directory recursively, and then your directory name. So for example, my directory name is test123. I want to transfer all the files in that directory, so just give the name of your directory here. Okay, and let's say I want to transfer this directory once again to my home folder of my remote server. So username and then IP address and then the location where you want to transfer your directory. Okay, so I will just press enter once again and give my password for my remote server once again, and you can see this directory is copied to my remote server, and inside this directory I have all these 3 files. This I can verify from my command line also. So test123 ls, and all these files are present here also. Now let's say I want to transfer or copy files from my remote server to my host server. Till now what we were doing is we were copying the files from our local machine to the remote server. Let's say I want to do the reverse of that. So I want to copy the files from the remote server to my home file. So how can I do it? So for doing this, let's say what I want to transfer, let's say I want to transfer this .deb file, right, from my remote server to my local machine. So let me just clear the terminal and let's see how we can do it. So once again you use the scp command, and this time you use the username first of all of your remote server. So code bind is the username, and then the IP address of your remote server. So once again I will see the IP address 192.168.245.141, right, and then the semicolon, and then the folder name from where you want to copy your file. So home/code bind, this is the folder from where I want to copy my file, and the file name itself. So I want to copy this file, right? So just write the file name here itself, and then wherever you want to copy. So for example, I want to copy this .dev file from the remote server to my desktop. So how can I do it? So after the space, I'm going to give the destination folder where I want to copy it. So let's say home folder, and then I want to copy it on my desktop. So I will just give the destination folder name and then press enter, and then give the password of my remote PC and then press enter, and then it's going to start copying this file to my local machine. You can see this is already present, so it's giving us the percentage which is transferred. Now let's say on your remote server OpenSSH is running on some different port than the default port, which is port 22. So let's say it's running on port 1234, then how you can use that port. So you can just give scp command once again to get the help, and you can see with capital P flag you can give the port name, right? So last command we have given here, you could have given, if the port is different, you could have given capital P and then port 1234. For example, if this OpenSSH server on the server side, on the remote server side, runs on different port. Okay, so port you can give something like this. If this server has some private key and you want to connect it using your public key, then you can use -i flag and the path to your public key here, and then you will be able to connect it. Okay, so if you want to connect it using your public key, you can give -i flag and then / your keys path. So this is how you can use SCP command in your Linux operating system. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and bye for now.